The story begins during a high school football game with a few seconds left on the clock. We see Tyler, the captain of the home team, and the star player perform a clutch move to give his team the win. After the victory, Tyler is approached by the head cheerleader, Leah, who apparently has a crush on him. She tries to flirt with him, but he ignores her and walks toward his girlfriend Sophie to celebrate with her, leaving Leah very pissed. Sophie, who's a member of the AV club, shows Tyler the pictures of him she took using the camera drone. Another member of the AV club named Mikey tries to congratulate Tyler, but he also ignores him. Sophie and Tyler kiss, but it's broken up by her mother, Paula, who happens to be the coach of the cheer squad. Paula isn't a fan of her daughter's relationship with Tyler because of his bad record, but seeing the effort he's making to get his life back on track, Paula decides to cut him some slack. Sometime later, Sophie and Mikey test out their drone camera together. Mikey keeps talking about how he doesn't approve of Tyler for Sophie. He tells her that Tyler and Leah are more compatible together because of their matching personalities, but Sophie counters his opinion, claiming that Tyler isn't just some jock with no brains. After setting up the drone, Mikey tests it out by flying it around. He then decides to use it to look into people's houses, but Sophie kicks against it. However, he does it anyway and ends up zooming in on Leah's pool party. With the drone hovering over the party, Mikey uses its camera to gawk at the cheerleaders, so Sophie asks him to give her the drone so she can fly it back. Putting on the goggles, she spots Tyler and Leah kissing at the party. Immediately, Mikey notices her mood change and asks her what she saw, but she just comes up with an excuse to leave, taking the memory card with her. Later, Sophie meets her mother at the flower shop, and while picking up some flowers, her mother begins talking about the cheerleaders as usual. This gets Sophie upset because it seems like her mother prefers the cheerleaders to her. It turns out that Sophie isn't interested in cheerleading, and it's surprising because her mother is the coach. Sophie tells her mother that she doesn't care about cheerleading or sports, so Paula clarifies that she's not forcing her to be a part of the cheer team, but rather, she wants her to have a hobby and a passion for something. Sophie points out that she takes pictures, but Paula states that she just wants her to stop being isolated and learn how to be in a team so she can learn the values of teamwork. After the little chat, Sophie asks her mother if she likes the cheerleaders more than her, so Paula reassures her daughter that she loves her more than anything in the world. At home, Sophie watches the drone footage on her computer and prints out the picture of Tyler and Leah kissing. With a scary look on her face, she places it in a red file and says that she's going to kill Tyler. Later that night, Paula receives a phone call from Leah's parents reporting their daughter missing. She goes to inform Sophie in her room, but Sophie pretends to be asleep, so her mother waits till morning to break the news to her. The following day, Paula tells Sophie what happened, but by then, it's not the same story because they both suddenly see on the news that Leah has been found dead. Sophie breaks down in tears, and her mother consoles her. At school, the students set up a shrine at Leah's locker where they go to mourn her. Tyler arrives to comfort Sophie, but Mikey seems to be suspecting him. The little face-off is broken up by Tyler's best friend Ryan, who reminds Tyler that they have to be at the gym for practice. Later that day, Sophie approaches Tyler and asks him about his last encounter with Leah, so he confesses that they kissed. He apologizes to Sophie and begs her to keep it between them, because if the police find out he met her the day she was murdered, they'd find a way to pin it on him, because he already has a history of juvenile delinquency. If he's made the suspect, they could ruin him, because he'd lose his scholarship, and his mother won't be able to afford a good lawyer with his father in prison. After hearing about him, Sophie makes him swear that he doesn't know what happened to Leah, and when he does, she agrees to help him find out who did. The next day at school, Paula speaks with the football team's coach, Parker. They talk about how their kids are holding up after Leah's murder, and also notice how energized Reva is now that she's the leader of the cheer squad. Suddenly, Paula remembers that she has to show Coach Parker something on her phone, but realizes it's missing. She goes to look for it where the girls are, but they pretend not to know where it is, even though Reva was going through it. Paula eventually finds it when Reva slips it back into her bag. Meanwhile, Sophie visits Mikey and asks him to help her find the killer. Once again, he suspects Tyler, but Sophie vouches for Tyler and convinces Mikey to help out in the investigation. The next day at school, Coach Parker tells Paula that Leah's parents called him asking for their daughter's cheer uniform and pom-poms. The two coaches go into the empty girls' locker room to retrieve Leah's belongings, but when they open the locker, they are horrified to find a doll hanging by the neck with a threatening note. At home, Sophie tells her mother how she suspects the cheerleaders because of how desperate and vicious they've proven to be over the years. However, Paula just tells Sophie that she can't be alone with anyone until the killer is caught, because it's most likely someone that they know. The following day, Coach Parker and Paula have another talk, and while Parker feels the teenagers aren't capable of murder, Paula thinks they might not be so harmless. Later, Sophie begins secretly taking pictures of Reva during cheer, and she notices a gold anklet. Afterward, she sneaks into the girls' locker room to look for clues, but gets shoved from behind, causing her to break her nose. She goes to clean herself up, and when she returns to pack her things, Reva mocks her, telling her to be careful because her mother can't always protect her. At home, she continues her investigations and discovers that Reva and Leah were desperately competing to lead the cheer squad before she was murdered. Tyler visits her a while later, but she tells him that her mom doesn't want her alone with anyone. He tries to persuade Sophie to let him stay, but Paula returns home, so he runs out of the house. The next day, Paula visits Coach Parker to ask him what he knows about the cheerleaders and football players. He gets defensive and tells her that the students don't need anyone throwing accusations at a time like this, but Paula eventually convinces him to reveal what he knows, and he tells her that Tyler was seeing Leah while he was with Sophie. Meanwhile, Mikey shows Sophie more footage from the cheerleader's social media, revealing that he was cheating on her with Leah. She storms out of his place upset, and when she leaves, a hooded figure attacks Mikey from behind and steals his computer with the evidence on it. Later, Paula informs Sophie that Mikey was attacked, making her more upset. At night, she goes out to meet Tyler and breaks up with him. The next day, Sophie goes to see her mother at the flower shop and reveals that she broke up with Tyler because she found out he was seeing Leah. She accidentally tells her mom about the drone footage, and so Paula insists that they take it to the police because it could contain crucial information. They rush home, but when Sophie goes up to get the evidence, she finds out that someone broke into her room and took it. She informs her mother, and they realize that the intruder is still inside. Sophie chases the burglar, but the person escapes. However, she finds an anklet that fell off the thief. Later, Mikey gets discharged from the hospital, so Sophie goes to visit him at his place. They're both bummed that the robber stole the drone and evidence, but Mikey remembers that the footage is backed up to the cloud. They watch the video of Leah's party again and notice Ryan arguing with Reva. She keeps shoving him, and Sophie remembers that Leah's cause of death was a fall down the stairs. On that note, they conclude that Reva must have pushed Leah down the stairs during an argument. Sure, it's a stretch, but the suspicion is further confirmed when the detectives that investigated the burglary at Sophie's house find more evidence dependent on Reva. Later, Sophie confronts Reva about the ankle bracelet and the other evidence she has. Reva denies it and claims that cheerleaders feel Sophie is the prime suspect. She accuses Sophie of being obsessed with the cheer squad because she's always stalking them. After going back and forth with the accusations, Reva tells Sophie to get in the car so she can reveal something to her. She tells Sophie that her boyfriend Ryan has been acting suspicious anytime she talks about the murder and tells her that she thinks he might have taken her ankle bracelet and planted it at the crime scene. Afterward, Sophie decides to sneak into Ryan's house for more investigation. There, she hears him talking with Tyler about hiding something. She accidentally makes a noise, so they come out to check who's there, but she runs away. Ryan begins to panic, but the mastermind, Tyler, tells him to calm down. They use Mikey's drone to follow her to her house and spy on her. Meanwhile, Mikey taps into the device controlling his drone and discovers that it's Tyler and Ryan. When Sophie gets home, her mother grounds her and seizes her phone because she keeps disobeying her and putting herself in danger with the investigation. That evening, Tyler goes to Sophie's house pretending that he came to apologize, but that's not the case. Mikey sends the video of Tyler admitting he killed Leah to Sophie's phone, and her mother sees it. Unfortunately, Tyler was standing next to her when she played it. Desperate to keep his actions a secret, he grabs Sophie and threatens to throw her down the stairs. Paula begs him to take the phone and leave, but he refuses, claiming that Sophie is just as ungrateful as Leah. It turns out that Tyler and Leah got into an argument because she was going to tell Sophie about their affair, so he pushed her down the stairs in anger. Sophie manages to escape from him, and with her mother's help, they knock Tyler out. Days later, Sophie reads an article online stating that Tyler has been sentenced to 30 years in prison for murder. The story ends with Mikey coming over to take her to school, and Paula is finally relieved that her daughter is safe.